What is going on, guys? We are back today. I got a short little video for you. New series I'm starting, maybe like a mini series. I don't know how many episodes this might be, but let's just hop right into it. So the first episode, what happened to Keldeo? So basically in this series, I'll be talking about different Pokemon that used to be hot in Gen 6, Gen 5, whatever the case may be, but in Gen 7 they have fallen off a bit. So I figured for the first episode, why not do Keldeo, one of my favorite, most iconic Pokemon that is unfortunately not as hot in Gen 7 as it used to be in Gen 6 and Gen 5. So I'm going to be posting this 10 to 15 minute discussion video, and then later on in like 2 or 3 hours I'll be posting an OU live featuring the Pokemon. So in a couple hours from today I will be posting a live featuring Keldeo, so definitely check that out. But without further ado, let's get right into it. So what happened to Keldeo? So yeah, let's jump in. What happened to this Pokemon? How did it go from being such a insane threat in Gen 6 OU and Gen 5 OU to being seen very rarely in Gen 7? Well, let's figure it out. So I got 5 sets here, potential Keldeo sets, just like I did with the Greninja, Landorus, and Magearna videos. We'll show the possible sets that Keldeo can run effectively, why these sets do and do not work in the metagame, and stuff like that. So let's go with the first set. This is the most commonly used set, or rather was the most commonly used set back when Keldeo had a decent niche in the metagame. So this is the Scarf set. This is kind of a classic set that you've seen in Gen 5 and Gen 6 as well. Hydro Pump, Surf, Secret Sword, Stone Edge. Now this set at the time had many different usages. Surf was used over Scald because at the time, way back when this set was used, Surf was able to one-hit KO Pheromosa, while Scald was not able to do that 100% of the time. So that was very important back in the day. And then Stone Edge was the tech to revenge kill Volcarona, because at +1 Spadef from Quiver Dance, Volcarona is able to take a Hydro Pump from Keldeo. However, if you are hasty nature and have Stone Edge, you were able to take out Volcarona at +1 before they take you out. So this was the premier Keldeo. In the current metagame, however, this set is not seen very much at all. There are much superior Scarfers, namely Greninja, which gives this thing competition as a water type attacker and as a Scarfer. In general, this thing is not really seen as a Scarf you want to run because its attacks are a little too weak. On top of that, bulky offense in general follows a pretty sturdy fire, water, grass framework, and a lot of the grass types are able to switch into Scarf Keldeo very easily throughout the course of the game, especially because they have regen so much. Let's just look at some of my OU teams. You can see in general Scarf Keld is not that effective versus offense where it used to once be. Because if you look at a lot of these offenses, they have decent one-time pivots. Or not one-time pivots, multiple-time pivots. Like this Mamoswine team, for example, I have a Tapu Fini. That's very good at walling Keldeo, especially Scarf throughout the game. Scarf is pretty weak, unfortunately, mainly because its attacks are low base powered besides Hydro Pump. Secret Sword only being 85 base power kind of hurts, and again, on top of that, a lot of these grass types have recovery in the form of Regenerator or Bulu, for example, which has grassy terrain. So in general, it's not too hard for offense to check Scarf Keld. That's not to say that it can't be a big threat. If we're looking at this Beedrill team I've been using in some of my videos, this team could be very weak to Scarf Keldeo late game. However, it still does have decent options in Assault Vest Tapu Lele, which is able to, I think, avoid the 4-hit KO, or avoid the 3-hit KO, maybe, I don't know. Probably avoid the 3-hit KO. And then Rotom Wash has the Eye of Papa Berries that can come in every now and then, as well as Scarf Card to tie. So basically what I'm trying to say is Scarf Keldeo used to be seen as a very good countermeasure to offense, because it was because again, Keldeo has a really amazing bulk, like 91 HP, 90 defense, 90 Spadef is one of the reasons to use it, as well as the fact that water fight typing is able to resist a lot of other annoying type coverages, such as opposing water moves, dark moves, stuff like that. But the thing is, the bulk isn't too important these days. Back then it used to be important because you were able to take some hits and like dish it out, like it was a durable Scarfer. But at this point it's not able to break as well as its counterparts. Stuff like Scarf Landorus, Scarf Jirachi might have more utility for a team in terms of defog and healing wish, and even something like Scarf Greninja has access to U-turns, spikes, and all around might just be putting in more work than Keldeo would be, which is why the Scarf set has fallen out of favor. But with that, let's hop into the next set, probably what I would consider the best set and the set that you are most likely to have success with when using. So here we have Choice Specs Keldeo. Yes, the GOAT from Gen 6 is back, and somehow this is the set I consider to be the most viable. But yes, Specs Keldeo, Hydro Pump, Scald, Secret Sword, you need all those moves. And then the fourth option is basically whatever you want for coverage. I have run Icy Wind in the past. I believe in the video I recorded I used Icy Wind. But I've used HP Poison as well. HP Poison is able to hit Tapu Bulu and Tapu Fini for super effective damage. These are two of the premier switches to Keldeo because they're able to resist the dual stab, so that's great. Icy Wind I have used in the past, which is also able to hit grass types as well, definitely not as hard. Like, obviously Bulu is hit harder by HP Poison. But Icy Wind is able to hit Lotties and stuff like that on the Switch, as well as Dragon-type Pokemon, so that's something worth considering as well. But EV spread-wise, the exact same thing. But let's go into the viability rankings and see how this would basically fare. Because if I'm talking about why Keldeo is not as good as it once was, I have to show how it fares compared to the rest of the metagame. So interestingly enough, when you look at a lot of the offensive threats in the metagame, Specs Keld does match up well. Look at this. Ash Greninja, for example, is decently checked by Keld. So that's one thing. An offensive check to Ash Greninja and something that can OHKO it is pretty nice. It's not a full-on counter, obviously, because Specs Hydro will 2-hit KO, but you're able to check it, and that's something worth noting. Heatran, you can switch it on almost all Heatran sets except for Z, Bloom, Doom, and Toxic. Threaten that thing out very nicely with Dual Stab. Landorus T again, 1-hit KO'd. Magearna, Specs Magearna takes a lot from Specs Secret Sword. I believe it can be a 2-hit KO. So again, that's actually a nice part about Keldeo. The fact that Secret Sword lets it still hit things on the physical side, lets it muscle through stuff like AV Tangrowth and AV Magearna a little bit easier. But if you go to A+ rank, this is kind of why the problem. Well, two of these Pokemon are the problem, a big problem with Keld for me right now. Tornadus and Toxapex. So these are two of the biggest Pokemon, especially Torn. I looked in tournament usage statistics this weekend and saw that Torn has 35% usage. Of course, that's tournament, not ladder, but I mean, just to tell you, like an example, yeah, so 35% usage, insane. That means 1 in 3 games featured a Tornadus T, or 1 in 3 teams rather featured a Tornadus T. But yeah, Tornadus T is seen on a lot of offenses. That thing is very good at dealing with Keldeo. Of course, it can't switch into a Specs Hydro Pump or anything like that, but it is faster than Keldeo. It is able to 1-hit KO Keldeo, and that is a nuisance when this thing's usage is so high. On top of that, Toxapex is on everyone's team, and unfortunately, this set is completely walled. I have tested moves like HP Electric, but in general, I have not seen them worth it at all. Pex in general does not really take too much from HP Electric, and the problem is that the Pokemon has Regenerator. So regardless if you're able to chip it 40-50%, it's going to switch out, it's going to get the majority of its HP back, and you're really not going to have done as much progress as you thought you would because Regenerator is going to negate that. That is specific for Toxapex. Again, you can test HP Electric. It is able to hit Feeny and Pex in one move, but in general, I have not had too much success with it. Usually, I have found myself better off just burning Pex on the switch with Scald and then firing off Hydro Pumps, forcing that thing to recover because then it's taking chip from burn, and then I can switch out into something that can get me more of an initiative with my team later on. So I've had more success doing that rather than trying to muscle past a Pokemon like Toxapex alone with Keldeo. But looking at the rest of the Pokemon showing basically what Specs Keld can do. Celesteela, another Pokemon that, you know what, Keldeo is able to resist Heavy Slam and Flamethrower. Has to watch out for Leech Seed, but it's threatened Celesteela nicely with Scald Burn. Hydro Pump is a 2-hit KO, not bad. Latios and Latias Mega, obviously huge roadblocks to this thing. Both of those things have been rising in usage as time goes on. They're very premier Keldeo counters, able to take whatever and OHKO back with Psychic. Latias, if it's not packing Psychic, will usually have Thunder Wave, so either way it's able to take on Keldeo pretty easily. And then for the most part, a lot of the guys below A+ in A rank aren't too good at dealing with Keld. I mean, Tangrowth is amazing, obviously, but a lot of these other guys don't really have too good of a shot. Like, you can see a lot of these Pokemon, because in general, I mean, Keldeo is a strong Pokemon. Water fighting is good coverage. It's not like Keldeo ever stopped having like decent coverage versus offensive Pokemon. Okay, that was the big thing back in Gen 6 and Gen 5. Scarf Keld and Specs Keld were so, like in Gen 5, Scarf Keld in the rain was the big threat because it was like, oh shit, this thing is such a threat for offense to deal with rain boosted Surf and all that. In Gen 6 OU, in ORAS OU, I mean, Specs Keldeo was the big threat because it was like, oh man, it's so hard to switch into Scald, Hydro Pump, Secret Sword. But now that we have gotten really good countermeasures, as well as like Pokemon just resist this thing's dual typing so well, Pex, Feeny, Bulu, that kind of stuff, it's made it a lot harder for Keldeo to thrive in this type of metagame. On top of that, let's talk about the competition it gets from other Pokemon. So the premier one being obviously Greninja. That thing is one of the best Pokemon in the entire metagame, and Ash Greninja is probably the easiest and most consistent offensive threat in the metagame too. Only needs to run one set and it always, you know, puts in work. So Ash Greninja versus Keldeo. Well, Ash Greninja is not only faster, but it is stronger, it has extra priority, and it has spikes. Those are a lot of amazing qualities that Keldeo unfortunately does not have. What Keldeo has over Greninja is, I guess, better bulk, arguably a better typing, except like, because Dark and Fighting are not too different in typing if you think about it. Yeah, Dark's weak to Fighting, but Greninja dies to all attacks anyway. So I guess you can say Keldeo's natural bulk helps because it's able to take a neutral hit, like an Earthquake or something better. But I mean, they still both resist Dark priority, stuff like that. They both still resist Water and Steel priority in the forms of Aqua Jet, Water Shuriken, Bullet Punch, all that kind of stuff. It's just Keldeo's natural bulk, which you could trade for more sheer power rather if you run Greninja. And Greninja also has an easier time punishing its switch-ins, like the Regenerator Bros, Tangrowth, and Pex, because it's able to spike on the switch. But yeah, in general, those are basically my feelings on Keldeo. Offensively, the metagame is not too terrible for it. I'll show you one game I have seen. This is from Smogon Premier League 10. So this happened a couple months ago. This was the only game I remember where Keldeo was used, but see, Dumas is using a Specs Keldeo alongside Protean Greninja. This is actually the core I featured in my video that's going up later today as well. Protean Greninja is able to lure in a lot of the things that threaten Keldeo with Z-Digs, such as Toxapex and Magearna. It's also able to tech Gunk Shot to deal with Bulu and Feeny, and that opens up the road for Specs or Scarf Keldeo to put in some work. In general, his opponent Obi's team is not too well suited for Keldeo regardless of Greninja's baits. Like, Specs Keld in general is able to hit this team very hard because Lele gets 2-hit KO'd by either water move. Magearna takes a lot from water moves regardless of having Assault Vest, and Secret Sword will cleanly 2-hit KO. Serp cannot switch into Secret Sword. Landorus, you know, dies to Specs, whatever water move. Rotom gets 2-hit KO by Secret Sword. Obviously, Sharpedo can't deal with Keldeo. So you can see in this matchup, Keldeo is actually not too bad, and I think Keldeo was decent in this matchup. So yeah, just some food for thought. I wanted to have some kind of tournament application. The only time I ever used Keldeo in tournament was 2 years ago. One of my first ever SM tournament games. I used it as Scarf, and I mean, it worked, but that was a whole different meta. But anyway, let's get into these 3 middle sets. These are sets that I do not use very often at all, but they are sets that you could consider if you wanted to run Keldeo. So this is one that has been, this one is seen on the ladder a decent amount. Hydro Pump, Calm Mind, Secret Sword, Taunt. So Taunt, Calm Mind. Sorry if the moves seem like if they're in a whack order. I just kind of throw them in there. But yeah, Taunt, Calm Mind. So this set was meant to shut down things like Celesteela, Toxapex, stuff like that would want to haze, Toxic, Leech Seed, all that stuff, and lets Keldeo work as more of a defensive, like it breaks through defensive teams. This set is not bad. The Water Z is pretty nice to have. However, I don't really use this set too much, just because I feel like even with Taunt, you don't really. Like, if I'm Calm Minding with a Pokemon like Keldeo that has decent natural bulk, I usually want to have some kind of, like, longevity. So I prefer having leftovers or something like that. Like, I feel like I would run Calm Mind sub leftovers, which I did not actually put on. Oh, I did. It's the next set. Never mind. But I feel like I'd rather run sub Calm Mind than I'd run this. Or I'd even run something like Calm Mind Rest, because at least if I ran Calm Mind Rest, I could deal with opposing Suicune or some shit like that. The problem with Taunt, Calm Mind, and then Water MZ to me is that this set doesn't even beat its counters as reliably as you'd think. Like, in theory, this set would destroy Pex, but if you get Scald Burned, then your Keldeo's on a timer. And maybe you get rid of Pex, but you're going to lose your Keldeo doing it. So at that point, like, you know what I mean? Like if you're getting chipped by Scalds, and then the additional damage of Scald Burn, you don't have leftovers, you come in on rock, stuff like that. This thing lacks a lot of immediate power that I would appreciate more from Specs. I want to bring Keldeo in, I want to get off a hit, and I want to get out, just like you used to do in Gen 6 and Gen 5. I feel like this Calm Mind stuff doesn't work as effectively as it used to work, especially in a metagame where a lot of these offensive threats nowadays, they don't waste time setting up, they just attack. I'm talking Alakazam, Scarf, Band, Kartana, Tapu Lele. Like, these Pokemon, they don't wait anymore, they just kill what's in their way. And so I feel like Keldeo struggles to pull off a, you know, like, good work with a set like this. But in general, this set is still used. Z Water Hydro Pump is very nice. It's a very hard nuke. I used that as well, and I was able to Oko stuff like Garchomp. So yeah, definitely a decent set. I just prefer Specs a little bit more. And then this set is also decent. Sub Calm Mind, Secret Sword Substitute. This set is interesting because you're actually able to sub up on stuff like Toxapex. I'm not sure if you get stalled out. I think maybe this set beats Toxapex if you're able to knock off Toxapex's leftovers, or it doesn't have leftovers and it is burned, because it'll be taking residual burn damage and be forced to recover. And I believe Keld is able to PP stall that way. Well, don't quote me on it. Someone put in the comments below. But I'm fairly sure Keldeo is able to beat Toxapex if it is burned and it lacks leftovers. But yeah, regardless of if it has haze or not. But yeah, this is another set of another bulkier take, but works the same. This is an old classic set from Gen 5 back today. And then this is the last set. Now, Z Normalium Hyper Beam. This set was used a couple times, not seen too much anymore. Really, I haven't seen this in forever because Specs is usually just seen as superior to this set in particular. But Normalium Z Hyper Beam, 200 base power normal move, backed by +1 special attack off a Calm Mind. It's pretty strong. This is used to bait in and get rid of stuff like Feeny or Tapu Bulu, Tangrowth, whatever the case may be. Just a neutral move for the Pokemon that resists Keldeo's dual stab. So this is meant to either chip them really heavily or just finish them off if they're weakened. I think you're better off running Z Fighting with like Focus Blast or something, which I think you can customize the Z move to whatever you want. I have tried Z Focus Blast in the past because you're able to obliterate Tangrowth and stuff like that. Not a bad option, honestly. It could be cool. I'm sure you also are able to destroy Rotom, even though if that thing is most likely Spadef these days. I'm pretty sure after like one rock switch and that thing would die to Z fighting, or maybe a couple. Either way, you can toy around with the Z move, but if I were to rank the Keldeo sets on the way I like them, Specs first, then the Calm Mind stuff, then Scarf probably. But I haven't tested Scarf lately. It might still be okay. I just cannot really see it, especially in a metagame. Like I said, I was going through some of my teams. You can see where the thing would shine. I'll go to more like standard teams. Like look at these teams, for example. Like this AV Victini team, this team would not struggle with Keldeo too much, because Tapu Fini has a little bit of Spadef. Like it would be able to handle Keld. Now that's not to say Keld's not a threat. It's a very big threat. It's able to deal with Victini, able to deal with Chomp, able to deal with Celesteela. Its natural bulk will come into play here. It's able to deal with Gren for the most part. I mean, Z-Dig will do a lot, but if I lose that, you know what I mean? But then, take it against a team like this AV Torn plus Calm Mind Blacephalon. Now, obviously, this team is a little bit more bulkier, but this team is a lot more challenging for Keldeo to get any initiative on with Pex plus Torn. Similarly to this Rock Z Chomp plus Mawile team. At first glance, it's like, oh man, Keldeo Skull looks great versus his ground types, his Mawile, Celesteela, but you have to find a way to deal with Pex. That's a good thing about Keldeo. You know what walls it, because again, just like in Gen 6, its dual typing is still fairly good. So you know the Pokemon that are able to wall it, right? The premier water types. So you can game plan and team build specifically for dealing with those Pokemon. So that's a good thing about Keldeo. It's not like a ton of Pokemon wall it. It's just that the Pokemon that are really good right now are good versus it as well. So at least your work is cut out for you when you're using a Pokemon like this. You know what you need to get rid of and you know what checks it. But in general, that's basically my write-up on Keldeo. What happened to it? Why isn't it as poppin' as it once was? Let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of this video. And like I said again, I will be uploading the Keldeo live in a couple hours, so definitely go check that out. Other than that, let me know in the comments below what you thought. What other Pokemon you guys think fell off that you'd want me to talk about. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Peace.